6 emergency exits.
Hello, everybody. This is Ron, your captain speaking. We are currently 30,000 feet in the air, and we haven't even left the airport. We just lit the joint. Just kidding, a little pilot humor there. We like to have fun. Our destination today is Casablanca, Morocco. So everyone, sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff.
Are you looking for a better way to play player props or daily fantasy sports? Well, look no further than Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the leading over-under daily fantasy game. Why? Because it's so easy to use and win. You can make your picks in under 30 seconds and win up to 10 times your money in one day. Right now, we have a special offer for our viewers and listeners of the 7-Footers podcast. All you have to do is sign up now and use the promo code 7Footer, and Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Yep, that's right. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. So, join the over 150,000 others who found a better way to play and download the Prize Picks app today.
Seven Footers crew, what is going on? We're back with you on a good Tuesday. We're recording this, and you guys got to check our new segment with the Props Network and Prize Picks. We have Jarod weighing in on props, bets, everything to make you guys some money with our new code 7Footer. How we doing, Jarod, over there? What's going on?
I'm good. I am, we're limping towards the All-Star break, right? Not doing as well as some others on this podcast who've been luxuriating out here in these streets, hanging out at the Ritz-Carlton. I mean, listen, I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut. I don't know. Like, this is your world. I'm just living in it.
Oh, well, talk to me more about my world. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, your girl was on a little vacay with my new boyfriend.
Get ready, people.
Saying it on the pod. No, but guys, if you've been following, your girl's been out in these streets alone. So I'm not even messing with myself at this point. But for real, yeah. Nice weekend in Fort Lauderdale. I went to lunch at the Ritz-Carlton. Let's not be serious right now. Come on. But anyway, yeah, had some Heat tickets. Good game.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, good game with the Nets. Yeah, that was their 11th game I think they dropped.
Yeah.
Before Seth Curry dropped, what was it, a double-double he had in his debut?
Yeah,
we'll get to it. We'll get to it, guys. But yeah, your girl was out and about in these streets and these Fort Lauderdale streets. Came back. It was snowing. Love it. Love to be here. Really, I'm not lying. Yes, I am. Okay. Let's get right to it, guys, because if you didn't hear or you've been living under a rock, there was a mega trade in the NBA between the Nets and the Sixers. And, of course, the highlight of that trade was the swap with James Harden and Ben Simmons. Just to give you guys a little synopsis, Ben Simmons asked the Sixers for a trade over the summer after his historically poor playoff performance and went mega silent and had a riff with the team, standoff, the whole nine, and wanted a trade. And he talked for the first time on February 15th. And there's so much to break down here, Jarod, and I can't wait to get your opinion on all of this because, he said so much and so did Harden, yet they said so little at the same time. We'll get to it. We'll break it down. But let's talk on Ben Simmons' side, since we've been waiting so long, I should say, for him to speak, really. I mean, he had a lot to say, yet not really. Playing alongside superstars and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, he used the word scary. It's going to be scary. Yeah, maybe, if it works out. If you come back to the game, please. But, he addressed a lot of things, and he said he's been through a lot over the past 6 months. Said a little bit of conflicting things too, that he's been out, taking care of his mental health and getting ready to return. He is healthy, he says, and has been practicing on the court every day. And when it comes to his shooting, he told reporters that he's been putting in the work every day, just in the gym. No other details. That's it. Nice. So, that's been fun. He said he hasn't talked to Joel Embiid, but nothing has been personal with his breakup with the Sixers, and it's not a specific person or the team that he had a problem with. I'm not really sure. I came out more confused from this. What do you think, Jarod?
Jenna, this has been a saga that's been going on for quite some time, and it sort of has its resolution, right? Ben Simmons is on a new team now, and he can move forward, and the situation in Philly, has resolved itself in that regard. I think what's interesting here to me is really looking out long term, big picture. Where do we go from here, right? Like in terms of Simmons, we know about his talent and what he can do on the floor, right? Yes, there is a glaring hole, which is shooting, but he is so elite at just about everything else on the floor. And coincidentally, everything he is elite at is everything the Brooklyn Nets are terrible at, right? Defense, playing with pace, playmaking, right? Like all of those things, size, like he has that, right? And that's a big, big plus and a get for the Nets. So basketball wise, the fit should work. But the thing that we need to talk about more, just overall with this, is Brooklyn going to be the organization in place, Jenna, where Ben and the team is now being Brooklyn, can establish a relationship based on trust? Because that was the big thing why it wasn't working out in Philadelphia, right? The trust got broken somewhere, somehow. I'm sure there's going to be all the, notebook dumps from all the Philadelphia beat reporters from all the stuff they've been saving, in drafts over the past several years, right? But the trust got broken down somewhere. So the question is, is Brooklyn the place where that trust can be redeveloped or established, and then going forward, can the Brooklyn Nets be the team that allows Ben to be the best version of himself? And that isn't something we're going to find out in a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3, right? We're going to have to see over time if it is what it is, or do we see more of the same?
You know what I thought was super interesting, aside from Ben talking for the first time in so many months about this, which, he said that he didn't, and I'm paraphrasing, but he didn't really care to dispel any type of rumors or reports because there's sources everywhere and people don't really know the situation. So, he veered away from that. In that portion, I believed he was very well media trained. But it's interesting that the Nets also said that he was gearing up, and I think Ben said this also, that he's gearing up for a return after the All-Star break. And they didn't give a date or a timetable, but a lot of people would assume, critics, fans, bloggers, whoever alike, would assume, oh, this is convenient for Ben to return after all this time. The trade finally happened. Again, I don't know how I feel about dissecting somebody's mental health right now. I'm just saying critics would say that. And then you have the Harden aspect of it, who he's been dealing with this hamstring injury conveniently at the same time that things are going sour with the Nets. So, and then you have, conflicting reports. Of course, there was a Bleacher Report column where there were multiple sources saying, one said that, it wasn't so much that Kevin Durant didn't want Harden to leave, but then other sources were saying as time grew on, Durant's commitment seemed, strained. So leading Kevin Durant, this source is saying to, question maybe the severity of his hamstring injury. What do you say about all of that? These narratives that are coming up now, because that's the two main ones that, people may dissect.
Yeah, no, Jenna, you're dead on. Look, the reality of it is, if I cannot speak with any sort of clarity or intelligence to answer the question of, was James Harden faking a hamstring injury, or was Ben Simmons faking mental health as a reason to get out of that situation? I cannot speak on that intelligently, nor do I have the answers, nor do I want to, right? That's number one. I think pulling back from a more of a 3,000-foot view, Jenna, this is a problem for the league as a whole, right? The issue here is that you have players, and you know me, I'm all about player empowerment, players being allowed to do what they want, etc. But what's happening now is players are forcing their way out of situations, and it's breaking down the myth that leagues establish with fans, right? And the myth, of course, is that player signs a contract to team X. your local team, the team that you support. The unspoken contract between you as a fan, even though it's not real, and the player is he will play here for the duration of his contract. He will love my city. He'll love being here, all that, try his hardest, all that. And what we're seeing is, well, that may not be 100% true, right? And that, I think, is a problem for the league. And, ultimately, when we look at this, and again, I'm all for players having all the power because we come to see them. We don't come to see owners or GMs or head coaches. We come to games and you tune in on TV to see the players play, not any other stuff. However, the ways in which this is these things are happening and players are moving themselves out, it is causing issues, right, in terms of the product itself and how fans are opting into that contract of a guy wants to be here, right? I mean, think about it. Simmons had 4 years left on his deal and was already demanding out, right? Harden just got to Brooklyn a year ago and is already asking out, right? So those are problematic things from just a pure product on the floor standpoint. Never mind getting into the mental health aspect of it. And what I will say is this. You said it correctly. I reiterated just now saying I can't speak to what he is or is not suffering from. Here is the reality that I do know. Everybody else who's on the internet and out here, playing amateur psychologist, psychiatrist, mental therapist, whatever. Can you all please show me all of the extensive hours of training you've gone through in psychiatry and understanding what it looks like when someone is struggling? Don't send me videos of, oh, look, Ben's smiling. That means he's fine now. Like first of all, you make yourself sound so stupid and uninformed when you say things like that, right? Like, it's just it's silly. If you want to believe he's faking it, that's on you. But to put out there in the public sphere that you can tell because, oh, look, he's smiling. Oh, look, he's doing this. Like, again, you are making yourself really unintelligent and really unsympathetic, right? To not just Simmons, but in the whole plight that is mental health, right? And the last thing I'll say, Jenna, is like everything else, mental health isn't some line with defined points on it, right? Oh, it's this, and this. Right. Mental health is a spectrum with infinite points all over the place. And there are things that the medical community know a lot about, and there are things they're only scratching the surface on, and everything in between. And again, for amateur Twitter docs and people out here to be like, oh, this means this and this. Like, no, stop.
Amen to that. I mean, really, to sum up what you just said, in Jenna fashion, it's bullshit to say that. And I know what tweet you might be talking about that kind of went viral today. Some personality of the media may have said, that Ben and more people have said. I'm not even pointing out that person, but that was the one that went viral that I saw. Because Ben Simmons is smiling and walking around, happening to enjoy himself in one moment that happened to be caught on a 30-second clip maybe, that does not mean he's not dealing with something. It does not mean he's not sad or facing challenges in his life. Nobody knows any of that. So, yeah, to reiterate, amen to everything that you said. It's very insensitive. And it's very interesting and hard and challenging to tackle this subject as a journalist. I think that's a fair statement just because we're not doctors. Let's pump the brakes. We're here really to talk about the game and what's going around and the things surrounding it. But I mean, that's...
And Jenna, you're dead on there. The other thing is, like, not only are we not doctors or medical licensed professionals, how is it that you people are able to diagnose what someone is doing via television or the internet without actually speaking to someone? Do you have some kind of special skill or talent that none of us can possess? Like, that's my thing. And the other piece about this too, Jenna, is regardless of what we may think, the details and the process he is going through as it relates to his mental health is none of our business.
Right.
Like, he does not have to share any of that information with us. We're not entitled or owed to any of it. By the way, neither are the Philadelphia 76ers and neither are the Brooklyn Nets, right? We're not entitled to any of that information, okay? If he is on some journey to get to a point where he's ready, and by the way, he said that in the press conference today. He said, physically, I feel good. He's like, mentally, it's still a process, right? So
Yeah.
and again, all you can do is take him at his word and what he's telling us. And if that is the case, mental health is not something that you go to a professional 2 times and you're good, right? Mental health is like your physical health. You work on it constantly to maintain whatever level you need to maintain, right? That's how this works.
Heck yeah. Again, couldn't agree more. And, now that we tackled that kind of side of it, James Harden also spoke, and he had a few interesting things to say as well. Just off the top here, quote, Philly was my first choice. It just didn't happen. He said that he didn't have the option to pick his last landing spot. So he said, quote, I wish it worked like that. An organization has to do what's best for their team. It didn't work like that. I had to go to Brooklyn. So that's really interesting, and I'm curious to know what his teammates think there. And then switching a small gear to that Bleacher Report column that we had mentioned, and they have a source that said that on Thursday morning, Durant dialed Nets manager Sean Marks and kind of put his foot down and was more susceptible to, and open to this trade. So a lot to unpack here, but those are some interesting comments that Harden had to say, especially after he, how his exit in Brooklyn came about. Not playing, gets that injury. People are seemingly questioning it. I am not, you are not, but I say that, critics are questioning it. And it's all interesting timing. But, what are your thoughts on those comments? Because those are powerful words.
No doubt. And so that's what I'll address, Jenna. I'm not going to talk about, again, any speculation about whether he's faking a hamstring injury or not, like whatever. The comments, though, saying from Harden that Philly was his first choice and he couldn't, he couldn't get there the first time. Well, I'm going to call him out on those because that's not true. It's been well reported, not only by Jake Fisher, but by other Shams Charania as well. And I've talked to people. When Harden going into the summer of the season before last season, during pickup games, etc., where he connected with KD, Durant was giving him the options that of, hey man, what about Brooklyn? What about Brooklyn? And when all of the things went down in Houston after the bubble, when Mike D'Antoni left, Daryl Morey left, all that, and Houston obviously went on a different mission to reset, Harden was like, wow, man, I don't know that I want to be here. He volunteered to again. I want to get to Brooklyn. He forced his way to Brooklyn. That's where he wanted to go. Okay. Now, did Daryl Morey always, once he got to Philly, want to get Harden? Yes, but it wasn't possible then. Okay. So Harden was like, you know what? Now Brooklyn will be great. Like, I think we could win a title here. Me, you, Kyrie, etc. And then we know what happens, right? In their 100 and change of possible games they could have played, they only played in 16, right? That coupled with Kyrie's unwillingness to get the vaccine is a lot of what pushed him over the edge, because he's like, wait a minute, I came here to be part of a 3. Kevin got hurt. Kyrie's only here part-time. Well, now I'm carrying all the minutes again. This is just as like how it was in Houston. I don't want to do this. And so it was also interesting, Jenna, when he said in his comments today, I need to be around guys who can win and guys who want to do whatever it takes to win, right? That was a direct shot at Kyrie Irving, right? Because Harden's point, and I've talked to sources around this, he is not happy with Kyrie's part-time availability. So, that's where we are.
Did we not discuss this so many times on this podcast
Sure
about saying, the roster cannot be fully happy and on board with this decision to have Kyrie only on road games. It just doesn't make sense. It's not fair. It doesn't matter at your stance. It's just not fair. So that's something I would believe. With all the rumors going around, that is definitely one that I would believe. But I do have a question for you about, since we're on the topic of Harden, he forced his way out of Houston, and seemingly, the same pattern kind of happened in Brooklyn. And some would say he's bouncing teams. It seems quite obvious. Now we're on, the third team here, being the Sixers. How much pressure and weight is on his shoulders with his age and the narrative of, You wanted out, so here you go. Here's what you wanted. Those quotes in that press conference are so telling and could come back to bite him if this does not work out. Is this fully going to shape the trajectory of the latter half of his career, basically?
Without question, Jenna, like you, to your point, and you just said it, he's now forced his way out of 2 situations, right? In a span of 18 months. Look, this now being the new team he's going to, look, dude, like eventually what's going to start happening is people are going to say, well, you wanted X and now you're here, but now you wanted Y, now you're over here. The common denominator on all this is you, right? Like you are the thing that keeps moving and moving to something new, right? And ultimately, and this is something we talked about on True Hoop, and shout out to Henry Abbott for bringing this up. There is something strange or interesting about leaving something, right? Leaving a situation to go somewhere new, right? It isn't as though, you were drafted there or whatever, or you were traded there. New management. It's you have now for the second time chose to leave a situation in less than ideal ways to go somewhere else, right? That isn't a positive thing, right? So, and the question now is, ultimately, are you and Joel Embiid and the Sixers, are that going to be enough to make all of this worth it to win a championship? Because again, Jenna, it's not just about being good. And we know both of those players are good, though you can start questioning where Harden is right now in the upper echelon of the NBA in terms of players. You need luck to win championships too. Not just good. You got to be good and lucky. Okay. And odds are, because it's a 1 in 30 lottery shot to win the NBA title every year, odds are they're not going to win a title while James Harden's there. And again, people are going to look back and say, oh man, you forced your way out of here. You went to Brooklyn, didn't work out there, forced your way out of there. Now you're here, didn't work. So yeah, so from a PR standpoint, from a reputational hit, this isn't going to look great if ultimately a championship does not happen.
Couldn't agree more on that point. I mean, and really quick now on the same topic, talk to me about the Kyrie Irving problem that the Nets have now, because again, only playing road games. And while he is showing out, I mean, I saw him in person, showing out against the Heat in that loss that they had, their 11th straight before they snapped it with that game against the Kings yesterday. But while he's playing good, you're still only here for the half of the games, and their next couple of games are East Coast. You got MSG, you got the Knicks, you got the Celtics. What are we doing here?
Yeah, so for me, Jenna, the reason why the Nets still have a Kyrie Irving problem is because they got Ben Simmons, right? Let's fast forward and assume he is physically ready and in a good place mentally, and Kevin Durant is healthy, and Kyrie Irving is a full-time player. Jenna, like, Ben Simmons fits so perfectly with that, with all the other shooters they have, with Seth Curry now, with Patty Mills, with Andre Drummond, like Nick Claxton, Joe Harris if he comes back from injury. Like, that you can start seeing and say, whoa, that's a problem for teams, okay? But Kyrie Irving is not a full-time player. He's a part-time player. And you said it yourself, there was going to be an issue at some point with people on the roster feeling some kind of way about Kyrie's part-time status. That was a big factor in James moving on, regardless of whatever he says right now. I know it because I talked to sources. Here's the other thing. We talked about before, Jenna, this idea of the unwritten contract between teams and their fans, right? Well, it is assumed now that you're going to try your hardest. We're going to compete for championships, right? That's what we're going to do. How the hell are you going to compete for a championship with a part-time player? How's that work? Not only a part-time player, but a part-time player of that magnitude. So essentially, what they have is a $36 million roster player who only plays half the time. Well, the long-term ramifications of that, Jenna, is, of course, it hurts the team in terms of building and whatever. It's like the Nets would be better off, as electric and amazing as Kyrie is. They'd be better off with that $33 million spent on full-time players, right? I mean, players who were there who we know we can count on you, injury aside, night in, night out, home, road, none of that doesn't matter, right? There is a level to this of, and again, you know me, Jenna, I'm all about player empowerment, being an individual and not being a conformist. But there are certain things you adhere to when you decide to be part of a team, right? And if the team's ultimate goal is championship, everyone in the championship boat must be rowing their oars in the same direction. I can't have a dude that doesn't row his oar half the time, and then what? You're not helping this, right? So his status is a problem for this team. He's only playing again half the time, and if they have a series against the Toronto Raptors, he can't play at all, right? Like, so I mean,
right.
So again, so imagine a 7-game series against the Raptors. You have a $30-something million player who cannot play. And you can't just go, okay, let me put somebody else in that roster spot. That's not how this works. So you essentially have a dead spot. Jenna, honestly, if it were me, and I know, look, Kevin's got to okay this, and Kyrie's his boy and whatever, and KD's my guy, but I'm like, dude, you have tied your future to someone who is proven to be unreliable. And the Kyrie defenders can say, oh, but it's COVID, no one's trying to take a vaccine, whatever. Okay, fine. Assume in a world, Jenna, where there's no COVID outbreak, which is normal. Would you bet anything significant that Kyrie would play every game in every season without take injuries out of it, without something coming up to like, oh, I need 2 weeks off to go do whatever. I got this, right? How confident would you be that he would be 100% bought in and play all games he was available for, minus being injured? Yeah.
No.
Not. Right.
No.
Not. You would not be confident. And this is
not at all. It's sad.
So it's not and again, he is brilliant. One of the most skilled players of all time. But I need to count on you. And this is not counting on you, right? So if he has a player option at the end of this season, and that's took the extension off the table. Honestly, if he opts into that deal, and I'm Sean Marks, I'm saying, Kevin, we got to move this dude, because that now frees up. We want to get that $30 whatever million space now. We can bring another player back of that caliber, or fill the roster out with younger players who can help you and prolong your second, third peak and give us more shots at winning a championship. But this dude, who, again, assuming there was no COVID pandemic, there would have been something else that would have caused him to not play, right? There would have been something else.
And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I still, at this state of the Nets, I still believe this. It is a ticking time bomb for Kyrie and Durant's at least work relationship. I mean, you have to, at least this has to cross your mind, or you assume this, because of everything that's going on. And I'm not just saying this because there's a bunch of rumors and reports about, Durant becoming unhappy with Harden, and, the culture and the vibe being messed up a little bit and miserable in the locker room. But you have to only assume this. I mean, this is a human thought.
You would, Jenna, but from everything I'm hearing, KD and Kyrie are as tight as ever. Everything's fine. Like, that's his man. Like, Kyrie's an artist on the back. Listen, I get it. He's an artist. But, I need my artist to show up and come to work. Okay? Like, I mean, point blank, I need you to come to work so you can put that art on display, my guy. Right? And, again, if I'm Sean Marks, I'm seriously thought. Because, again, remember, Durant is signed. He signed his extension. So he's going to be with Brooklyn for the next 4 seasons after this one. Ben Simmons inked through the next 3 years. That's a nice core. If you can get Kyrie to commit fully, that'd be great. But you can't right now. Honestly, if he opts in, that's an expiring deal. Who else can I bring back? First of all, then you have to ask yourself, what's Kyrie's trade value around the league? It may be nothing. Who the hell knows? But again, as an organization, the Nets, you have to cater to your stars, and Kevin Durant matters and all that. But it's like, look, you came here because you wanted to win. But we can't with a guy who plays halftime. Your other buddy just left, and now we have a roster spot, again, $30-something million that we can't just put somebody else there, right? We have to either move him or do something else, right? So these are the conversations, and I'm sure Sean Marks is thinking about, what's going to be happening this offseason.
100%. I mean, hey, with this trade, the Nets are seemingly on the up and up. I mean, Seth Curry was on fire, dropped 23 the other night in his debut. Him and Andre Drummond did not play against the Heat on Saturday. So, yeah, made their debut in a win against the Kings and snapped that, what was it, 11 game losing streak. So, whew, man, Brooklyn, wipe your sweat off your brow because we back, maybe. But we'll see. But again, I mean, what makes Seth Curry so good, a last note here before we move on, he's such a good trade asset because of how well he can shoot the ball, catch and shoot anything deep from three. So good get there. Andre Drummond too.
Rebounding.
Nice big man.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice
Yep.
big
Size.
man for them to get.
The Nets had to look. Picking up Drummond and Curry is going to help this team. But again, you need that with Simmons playing, healthy KD, and a full-time bought-in Kyrie. If you have a full-time bought-in Kyrie, you can see how this squad can win a championship. Halftime Kyrie? No.
Funny. Love it. And also the get in Simmons too, I like, obviously, because of everything he does aside from shooting, which we have yet to see his improvement. But we'll talk about that in our predictions coming up. Hint at mine. But honestly, and I could be off here, but the get in Simmons could not be a replacement for Kyrie, but I think that that's the Nets showing you that they're sweating and they need somebody to fill that role when he's not there. And yeah, he potentially can't shoot, but
I mean, he's the big thing about this, Jen, is he's 25 years old. Kevin Durant's 33.
There's room for so much improvement.
Right?
Yeah.
So much improvement. So the Nets just gave themselves an opportunity to say, okay, you know what? At least we have a 25-year-old player who's, by the way, been a 3-time All-Star, 2-time All-Defense, and an All-NBA selection, right? So again, for all the warts his game has, this man is still very good at basketball in many, many things. Again, he's excellent at the things the Nets are terrible at. So just that alone, that fits hand in glove, right?
I love it. I love it. Yeah, a lot of talk here about the Nets and the Sixers because, hey, I mean, it was the mega trade that was heard around the association. So, we'll keep an eye on that because, again, James Harden and maybe Ben Simmons set to make their debuts after the All-Star break, which is coming up. All-Star is this weekend in Cleveland. Your girl will be on the ground there. So definitely keep checking the social media pages and, stay up on the know, guys. We'll keep you filled in. Let's talk about top 5, Jarod, because things around the association, we've already talked about teams dominating like the Celtics and the Suns. But start us off here with our weekly top 5.
Okay, I'm going to give you my we'll go back and forth. 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. All right. So my number 5 team, the Boston Celtics. Ooh, 8 in a row. Look, Ime Udoka. Remember how this season started? Oh God, disastrous. We were like, oh, we don't know what's going on.
I'll be the first to say I slandered them.
Are Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum going to break out? But they got alpha problems. All these different things. None of that matters right now because they are again the hottest team in the league. 8 in a row. Jenna, they are 33 and 25. They are number 5 in adjusted net rating. They are the number 2 defense in adjusted defensive rating. Yo. Again, kudos to Ime and the Celtics. That's my number 5 team. Who's your 5?
I like what I see. My number 5, we are going to go over and talk a little bit about the Lakers. No, I'm kidding. Not the Lakers.
The Lakers.
No, that's not even close at this point.
Not
Damn
even
it.
close.
Bron's at the freaking Super Bowl on 2 legs. Like, you just got off that bum knee. Come on now, sit down, drink your Lobos on the freaking chair. But anyway, let's talk about these Jazz. They're still climbing up in the West. I still like what I see in 33 and 24. Obviously, we know they're above 500, but still climbing and holding their own in the West there with, of course, the Juggernauts and the Suns and the Warriors. I like how Donovan Mitchell's still playing. I love, what they're still creating there, and they're my number 5.
I love it. Number 4 for me, Miami Heat. Number 1 team in the East. Played most of the season without Butler and Bam and all that, and they're still Spoelstra's doing a thing. So Miami Heat, my number 4 team.
Ooh, I like it. And I'm gonna go with boring. The Warriors, number 4.
Wow, Warriors dropped to 4 for you, huh?
They're still doing good. I'm just like, oh, here we go. I mean, guys, number 2 in the West.
Number 3 for me, my Memphis Grizzlies. Number 3 in the Western Conference, number 3 in the NBA. Just loving this team. They're fun, man. Who doesn't love the Grizzlies? You know, my boy Triple J doing his thing out there. John Morant, an MVP candidate. Look, this team's going to make some noise in the playoffs. They're going to win their first round series, and they're going to put a scare, I think, into whoever they play in that next round. So shout out to the Grizzlies. That's my number 3 team.
Shout outs. Gotta love it. I'm going to go with my number 3 team, the Heat. Again, you just had them up on yours. Number 1 team in the East. I mean, they're just too good. Again, like I said, I had to go with them on my list because obviously I was there on Saturday and saw. I will say they're also on my list too because kudos to the Heat fans. They get down. The 305 is no joke. I mean, you know, your girl was like, whoo. They do this like one like wave thing. You know, it was a whole thing. But before I embarrass myself, yeah. The Heat.
Number 2 for me, no surprise, the Golden State Warriors. Second best record in the league, number 2 in the Western Conference. Look, they're holding their own. Draymond's been out for a bit. They're going to need him back if they want to actually make a title run, but I'm loving what I'm seeing from the Golden State Warriors.
All right, my number 2 is the Phoenix Suns. I mean, no surprise here. Number 1 in the West. I mean, what else do we need to say at this point? I mean, I really do think that, you know, depending on the Nets and how this trade works out, I really think they're going to make that title run.
Well, my number 1 team is the Phoenix Suns, as you mentioned, for all the reasons you just said. They are the number 1 team in the NBA, number 1 in adjusted net rating, the only team in the top 5 in adjusted offensive and adjusted defensive rating. Their thing is, y'all thought last year was a fluke. We're saying, nah. I am so curious now who your number 1 team is. If it ain't the Suns.
Thank you. And no, it ain't the Suns because it is the Bulls, baby. It is the Bulls. I am loving what I am seeing out of DeMar DeRozan.
All right.
He just hit a cool milestone being the only Bulls player to have, I think it was like, how many games? Maybe like 5 or 6 consecutively with 35 plus points. I mean, DeMar DeRozan, the culture that they're creating down there, it still is continuing to amaze me. And again, the real test, guys, is after the All-Star break when these teams really know that they have to amp it up. So, you know, we shall see. Speaking of that, Jarod.
It is, listen, we are, the All-Star break is coming up. So just a little housekeeping for you guys. We will not have a show next week as there will be no betting show and no podcast because there is no game on Tuesday night, and it's All-Star break. We need a break too, so we're going to take next week off. We'll be back with you after the break, and we'll talk about what's going on in the league. But before we go, we figured we'd each of us make a bold prediction for what's going to happen post All-Star break. Jenna, I'm going to let you go first because mine's going to blow your mind. So you go. What is your bold prediction post All-Star break?
Oh, man. Okay. So this is like a double-sided one, and a lot of people are going to call me crazy. And staying on the topic, of course, of the Simmons-Harden trade, I'm going to say, and maybe this is a predictable, I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to say on the Brooklyn side that Ben Simmons is going to come back after the All-Star break, and this is going to be the most match made in heaven that it is actually going to scare the shit out of all of us, incredibly. And it's going to give the West a scare because of the domination with the Warriors and the Suns. Now, on the other flip side of that, I predict, and I'm not just saying this because I'm being a hater. I'm saying this because this is really what I think. I don't think Harden's going to be great in Philly.
Wow,
I don't think it's going to work.
I think
Joel Embiid's still going to do his thing,
right.
But I think we're going to see Harden maybe not see that the grass is greener on the other side. And because he won't accept a role that he was supposed to have in Brooklyn. That's what I really think.
Interesting. So you see fireworks and success in Brooklyn, and you see disaster in Philly.
Yep. Basically. Thanks for summing that one up. I should have just said that.
All right, folks. Brace yourselves. And shout out to John, who our buddy John, who is a Philadelphia 76ers fan. He has no words. He cannot believe that Jenna said that his Sixers are going to be atrocious after the break. Well, John, have no fear because my prediction has nothing to do with your Sixers. I think they'll be fine. They have Joel Embiid, all good. My bold prediction is the New Orleans Pelicans will finish the regular season with a better record than your Los Angeles Lakers. Oh my God.
This is why I drink.
Man, that's a hot take. Look at that. Everybody's like, wait, what? You
My
can't
God.
be serious. Oh, but
Red
I
wine
am
was not
serious.
meant to be chugged.
Oh, but I am serious. Look, I mean, I'm kind of serious.
Oh my God.
Look. The Lakers, we know what they are. They are currently 26-31, 5 games under 500. The Pelicans are 23-34. That's only 2.5 games behind. It ain't like it's a 7-game gap. They are right there. CJ McCollum's doing his thing out in New Orleans, and there's some rumors that Zion Williamson may be back potentially towards the end of the season. Look, I'm not saying I know anything. I'm just putting it out there. Look, Laker fans, y'all know y'all ain't making the playoffs. It's a play-in if you're lucky. And look, I think it's gonna be right around New Orleans, LA. That's gonna be the record we're looking at heading into the
damn it.
heading into the play-in. Yeah, look, unless Anthony Davis post All-Star break morphs into the best player in the world, which I mean it could happen. He did it in the bubble. We saw it. Unless that happens, yeah. This team's going nowhere fast.
You are something else, okay? Wow. I did not know that prediction was going to be as bold as it was. And hey, honestly, it's very intriguing. You have, wow. This could happen, I'm not going to lie, especially if Zion comes back, depending on, his status with his recovery from that injured foot.
Lakers, 24th ranked in adjusted defensive rating, 17th. I'm sorry, adjusted offensive rating, 17th in adjusted defensive rating, 21st in adjusted net rating. Oh, Pelicans, 23rd in adjusted net rating, minus 2 point. I mean, they're basically identical in their adjusted net ratings. And the Pelicans are a little better offense, and the Lakers a little bit better defense. So, look, I'm just saying. John, he loves it. Look, and The sports analytic website 538 has predictions. And look, their predictions aren't always correct. We know, not just in sports, but in politics as well. They have the Lakers finishing just 1 game ahead of the Pelicans at the end of the season, projected as of right now. So that's why I'm like, let's roll the dice, baby. Pelicans, better record. Why not? Look, the Timberwolves are already scheduled to finish with a better record. The Timberwolves will finish with a better record than the Los Angeles Lakers. This is where we're at right now.
My God.
So anyway, yeah, man, that's my bold prediction. Let that stew, folks, over the All-Star break. Let that marinate in your mentals.
Yeah. That's already marinating in my mentals, and I already want to just hit my head off of something very hard. Wow, that's very interesting. I like that. Although I hate it because it's so mind blowing. But wow, you really went out of the box with that
man.
one.
I just look. I've told you, I just don't like what I see from this team, and it's.
Hey,
it
speaks for itself.
Their record speaks for itself.
And they did nothing. Let's remind everybody, nothing at the trade deadline.
And everybody loves to do the whole Jenna thing where it's All-Star breaks halfway. They have the second half of the season. No, my friends. We are 2/3 of the way through the season. Ain't no halfway, okay? This is a large enough sample size now that this is who this team is, okay? They're going to have to go on a hell of a run post All-Star game. And I'm talking 18 out of 20, something like that. And what has given you any indication they are capable of doing that? Yeah.
Nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing. On the Westbrook front, he continues to get benched while the Lakers continue to work out their struggles. We shall see. We'll keep an eye on it, though. You know how it is.
Well, folks, as always, you know where to find us. As I said, we will be off next week for All-Star break, so we'll see you the week after. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. As always, the Props Network. Thank you to John for tuning in and for being so great, helping us out with our graphics for our betting show. And we are at 7footers Pod on Twitter, at 7footers Podcast on Instagram. We are at JS Hector, at Gentleman Selly. And listen, sometimes things just happen, folks. It's okay. Don't be mad. Don't be mad, Lakers fans. Listen, things just happen. And until next time, peace.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't here back. I don't wanna trap what some man gon' do.